I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
31-23, your final score from Ford Field is some costly mistakes in the first half of the game are too much for the Bucs to handle down the stretch, and they cannot overcome them. Their season ends in the divisional round against the Detroit Lions in a very hard-fought game. Despite the mistakes that we will talk about here in just a few moments, an incredibly entertaining game and exactly what the playoffs should be. The Bucs had to earn just about everything they did on both sides of the ball today, but it ultimately is not enough against one of the better teams left in the NFC. Evan, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough game. Hard fought. I thought it was a battle. I thought it was a battle for pretty much 60 minutes. It was back and forth. Really, it would be the Bucs defense would get some stops. Detroit's defense would get some stops. The Bucs defense would give up a touchdown. The Bucs offense would respond with a touchdown. It was sort of like that for a good bit of the day. Fortunately, the difference was, Detroit pulled away there 31-17. The Bucs offense just was, too little, too late down the stretch. And then, of course, they score there and then, you get an opportunity. But at the same time, sure, Baker threw the pick and stuff. We'll talk about that. But, 90 yards is pretty tough. To go 90 yards against that defense wouldn't have been an easy task anyway. So even if that pick doesn't happen, there's no guarantee like the Buccaneers even score. There's no guarantee they get the 2-point conversion either. So, like I said, it's a hard fought game, and I think that the Bucs can, hold their heads up high. Obviously, it's disappointing. You don't want it to end, but it is what it is, and you just got to move on now and focus on, what you need for this team coming into next season.
Absolutely a successful season. I said it on the game preview show, and I have to double down. I'm a man of my word. I said, win or lose, it's going to be hard to write this season off as anything other than a success for a Bucs team that a lot of people had discounted before the year, and even headed into the postseason. That was the theme of this Buccaneers team. They were underdogs week in and week out. They were underdogs at home last week against Philly. They were underdogs coming into this game against Detroit. And with their backs against the wall, they have fought for everything that they have, taken over these last several weeks. Had to basically play with a playoff atmosphere ever since they were a 4-7 team. They were facing elimination just about every single week, and that final loss of the regular season to New Orleans luckily wasn't enough to keep them out of it. They win the division against Carolina the following week, and they also take care of business against Philly in that first round. Even a team that I had predicted to maybe make the postseason, I did not predict them to win in the wild card round, and I sure as hell didn't predict them to win in the fashion that they did. But although they exceeded expectations, I still think some of the biggest differences between this Bucs team as they are now and a Super Bowl ready team are exactly the mistakes that cost them this game today. Leaving points out on the field and just coming up short in some opportunities that you should have had. Multiple times today in the game, we can point to a play or an instance where there was an opportunity to make a play and it just didn't happen. Or the wrong play was made, as we saw in the final offensive possession for Tampa Bay. Jamel Dean early in that one had the dropped interception, and, Detroit ultimately gets 3 points instead of 7, which is nice that the defense stopped the touchdown, but just a very consequential game today, and the mistakes were killer and not enough for the Bucs to overcome at the end of this one. So what do you want to talk about first here from this game? Do you want to get the good out of the way, the bad? Because there's a lot to take away from a division loss like this, or a divisional round loss like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to sort of address something, which is and this is coming from me, so it's kind of, it means something when it's coming from me. But I mean, even because I saw, Crazy Shank in the chat here, which everybody in the chat, shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys all season, really. I mean, you guys have stuck with us in the entire season. This is our last game review of the season, so just wanted to to shout you guys out. But he said that time to fire Bowles. It was embarrassing. They lost by 8 points on the road to a team that is really good. I don't really get that sentiment that Bowles, this is a fireable game. I don't quite understand. And this is coming from somebody who believed that Todd Bowles should have been fired. Like it was writing. I wrote an article at Bucs Nation mid season that said the Bucs are done and Todd Bowles would probably be looking for a job. So like I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. I get it. Emotions are high right now, right after the game, But to me, I just don't quite understand to me, this isn't the type of game where like it completely changes your outlook on the off season. If you thought, now, I mean, if you thought Bowles should have been fired before this game, okay, like I'm not really sure like this game changed your opinion on that, where like, you're like, oh, he's got to stay. But also like, if you were even like in the middle and then you're leaning towards like firing after watching this game, I don't really know why.
Well, I thought a lot of the issues the Bucs had today, whether it's execution or coaching, I thought they were all things that we have talked about before. Talking about some of the back-breaking mistakes that they had made they couldn't overcome. The early dropped interception from Jamel Dean, who was playing one hell of a game before leaving with injury. You had a couple of sacks today, hanging on to the football too long, push yourself out of field goal range, you're forced to punt it away. Missing field goals. Chase McLaughlin, our boy Money Mac, God bless him, but he picked one hell of a time to miss his first field goal of the season with that doink off of the left upright there. These are the mistakes that we have talked about time and time again throughout the season where the Bucs have won a game, or maybe they didn't that particular week, but we've talked about mistakes that, ultimately cost you points, leaving points out on the field. Stuff like that is going to cost you come playoff time. It's going to cost you when you're playing against just a better disciplined football team, a team that's not making the same mistakes that you are. Like, it's stuff that we have covered. And then also, the big bugaboo with Todd Bowles right now, I would say his inconsistency and how aggressive he wants to be. The Bucs had a couple of chances to go for it on fourth down today, and they didn't. One time they elected to kick the field goal, take the points, and they did, and that's fine. It kept them in the game. But, going for 2 points there at the end of the game, and putting your team down 8 points instead of just taking the PAT and putting them down 7, trying to play for OT. Maybe he's trying to win the game in regulation. You've got a defense that's already gassed and worn out. But that was pretty ridiculous. And I think that's the type of stuff that we have seen from Todd Bowles as a head coach, that even though I think it's the right move to bring him back, and he will be back next season, those are the things that aren't going to change. These are the things that we have talked about before, and we find ourselves talking about it again and again. Here we are after a playoff game, and a lot of people, maybe some of the callers that we'll get to here in a couple of minutes, a lot of people are going to be talking about that big-time coaching decision from Todd Bowles and going for 2 there on the Bucs' second-to-last offensive possession. But this is all stuff I feel like, in my opinion, we have covered before. And, that's the stuff you're going to get with Todd Bowles. Yeah,
it is. And I mean, punting on 4th and 4, punting on the 4th and 1 earlier where Edmonds was stopped. That's you're going to get those at times. And unfortunately, in a game like this, especially against a Dan Campbell-led team, I think you had to be a little more aggressive there. And look, I get the reasoning behind going for 2. Okay, you can explain the reasoning to me. I understand the reasoning and the analytics and stuff. I completely get that. At the same time, though, that doesn't mean I have to agree with it. And I didn't agree with it in that moment. Because to me, my philosophy is when you don't need to chase points, you don't chase points. My basically thing is, hey, if you want to go for 2 so bad, do it when it's 31 to 30 or whatever, right? When you've already 31-24, do it 31-30, try win the game 32-31. That's, to me, that's when you go for 2 if you want to do it. To me, it's just they chase points when they didn't have to, and honestly, it didn't really matter, right? It's not like the Bucs lost this game 31-29, right? It didn't. At the end of the day, it did not matter. But yeah, I just thought, the lack of aggressiveness, and I thought this team looked prepared. I mean, they just, like, it's at the same time, like, look, the Lions are just a better football team. Like sometimes it's that simple, Sometimes it is just the team is just better than you are. And the Lions, all the Bucs fought hard. The Lions are a better football team. I mean, and you're playing on the road. That's just how it is sometimes. And that's the way this game goes.
We are going to get to these calls on hold, I promise, but I want to dive a little more into what went wrong for the Buccaneers on both sides of the football. Let's talk about the offense overall today, and then we can get into Baker Mayfield and his performance. I thought the Bucs found success moving the football. There were a couple of drives where at the end of the first half there, in 1 minute and 12 seconds, they go, 92 yards in the 2-minute drill. They execute it to perfection. You get the big-time touchdown to Cade Otton over the top. Couple of huge catches from Mike Evans, proving why. I know he had a couple of drops today, but
including one that resulted in a turnover. But
yeah, we'll talk about that come contract time, maybe a little more at a later date. But despite the way they were able to move the football today, I still came away from it feeling like they did not do enough to challenge Detroit downfield. They didn't really take many explosive shots in the first half of that game. I thought the play sequencing was conservative. They didn't challenge Detroit much down the field. This is a defense with a known secondary that has issues. The Lions came into this game fresh off of a matchup with Matt Stafford in LA where they gave up over 400 yards on defense. I was surprised to see Dave Canales. The Bucs made it a priority to get the ball into the hands of guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin early in the game. Unfortunately, Mike Evans can't hang on to that one, and it leads to an early turnover, but it still didn't feel like they were pushing for anything much more than, 10, 15, 20-yard gains here and there. I didn't see too many shots down the field today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it could have been a little bit more aggressive, and it's sort of, and I kind of got a little bit worried with the success that they had against Philly, that maybe they would rely on sort of that yak, right? Or the yard after contact. Like, sure, like, it worked against Philly, but like, you can't game plan for that. Like, you can't game plan a guy to break a tackle, like, that's not, how can you game plan for that? So, it felt like they were relying on that. There's a lot of, screens, a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage where you were kind of hoping like, okay, guy breaks a tackle, then goes. And yeah, I thought they didn't push the ball down the field as much. They didn't use the middle of the field as much as they did last week. And, I thought the offense, I thought they didn't play bad. Like they weren't bad. But at the end of the day, 2 turnovers is going to kill you. And quite frankly, like, the one turnover, put 3 points on the board for Detroit, and the other one ended the game. So when you look at it, you're going to look at that. And I believe I even said this on the game preview show. Like, we were going to look at it, and the team that didn't turn the ball over was probably going to win. Who didn't turn the ball over? Detroit. So, I think that was ultimately in an 8-point game. 2 turnovers is a mighty big difference. So not only did the Bucs have those 2 turnovers, like we mentioned, the missed field goal. So there's a lot of missed opportunities, and a lot of things where it could go either way, but it just didn't break the Bucs' way.
Before we talk about the quarterback, I do want to show some love to the second-year tight end from the University of Washington. Cade Otton has become an unsung hero in this Buccaneers offense, especially showing up big time with a couple of catches. Huge catches against the Eagles and, of course, against the Lions this week. 5 receptions, 65 yards, and a touchdown. And I also have to give him some love for an excellent block on the screen pass to Rachaad White for his big receiving touchdown today. Cade Otton has made a huge jump here in the second season, and I'm excited to see him evolve with the rest of this offense. He has become a pretty fun guy to watch down there at the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean, Cade Otton, it's sort of these last 2 games, he's really sort of stepped up and become a primary target for this Bucs offense. Now, I mean, I still do have my, and again, it all depends on what type of offense you run. If you run an offense where the tight end is used like Otton is, that's fine. But I would be careful of using, Otton in a way that is like makes him like the primary focus, because I just don't think his skill set really matches that. I don't think he's that type of difference making tight end. But I mean, hey, he's proven, he's a solid football player. He is, and he's just it's a young player who has shown, strides year after year. And I'm not sure. I could see the Buccaneers add a tight end, either as a starter or for depth in the offseason. It wouldn't shock me. But we'll have to see how Cade Otton looks next year, because I think next year's, coming into year 3 for any draft pick. I think once you enter year 3, that's when it shows kind of, what you're going to be in the NFL.
Another major issue for this Buccaneers offense today, I have to point to the tight ends. I have to point to the running back. Really, whoever was assigned to pick up the blitz on that particular play, they did not do a good job today at all of protecting Baker Mayfield from extra pass rushers, whoever it may be, whether it's a linebacker lined up as an extra man on the edge of the line of scrimmage, it's a defensive back, a safety that they bring down to send after the passer. The Bucs had no answer for some of the defensive fronts that Detroit was throwing at them, and they got to Baker Mayfield early and often today. It was hard for him to get comfortable. He was just under pressure. But it seemed like whenever they lined up with an extra pass rusher, no matter what it is, they were getting home practically unblocked. Did you notice that today as well? That was a huge issue.
I think, yeah. If you didn't notice it, I'm not sure you watched the game. Yeah, because it seemed like the Bucs, the offensive line was having communication problems, execution problems, and just really, it didn't look like they were really like prepared for some of the blitzes that the Lions were throwing at them. We have a $5 super chat by Matt Diaz. It was a good run, boys. Glad we're not tanking for Caleb. Go Bucs. Yeah, I mean the Bucs. Yeah, clap it up. The Bucs, yeah, well, obviously, barring the biggest trade up in NFL history, will not be getting Caleb Williams. As amazement with a $10 super chat here. Lions killed us with the blitzes as well. Overall, we competed and proud of efforts. Bowles' decision shaky, and Canal should have targeted Palmer, which we have got 3 and out after Levante sack. At the same time, yeah, you say, okay, Canal should have targeted Palmer. Sometimes that's just the quarterback's decision, man. Sometimes it's just where the ball goes. So, it's at the end of the day, sometimes it's not all on the play caller. Now, I did think Canals did some good things. I thought there was a few things, though, a few drives where I thought they played just like we talked about, like a little bit on the conservative side of things. So, but again, I thought they did some good things, but clearly it wasn't enough at the end of the day.
Also got to shout out Mike Evans, the wide receiver. Felt it was fitting to wear the number 13 jersey today. If this is his final game in a Buccaneers uniform, despite a couple of catches, he still finishes as the team's leading receiver. 8 receptions, 147 yards, and a touchdown on the day for big number 13. The NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, and as far as Mike Evans, the Bucs are going to go into the offseason ready for contract negotiations with a guy who just came off of, damn near $150, 8 catches and a touchdown in a playoff game. So your quick thoughts on Mike Evans before we pivot to Baker here.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the opening drop, which it's a tough ball, but he should have caught it. You got to catch that ball. Outside of the drop, I mean, the catch he had right before the touchdown was really, really good. So yeah, obviously well over 100 yards a day. Had a great season, and I do think that it could obviously definitely could have been. It could have been Mike Evans' last game in Tampa Bay. It could have been Levante Davis' last game in Tampa Bay. It could have been. At the end of the day, I don't think it will be. And look, we're not going to really get into that. We have basically 2 months to talk about that. So we will have plenty of time to discuss that. But yeah, I mean, I thought Mike Evans was good today. I would have liked to seen them get him a little bit more involved than they did. As far as targets goes, it seemed like it wasn't really. It wasn't like he was targeted a bunch and it just didn't connect. It seemed like there was times in the game where they weren't really targeting him. It was going to Otton, and we just spoke the praise of Otton, but at the same time, to me in these playoff games, you need to get the ball in the best player's hands. And Mike Evans was really good. I just don't know if they involved him enough. But again, not gonna nitpick on that too much.
Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield in his post-game press conference says, quote, "If I'm back, I want Mike back," in reference to Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans and impending free agent Baker Mayfield, also an impending free agent. Now let's talk about this performance. 26 for 41, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions today for the quarterback, one of them being an early interception off of the tipped pass, and then the second one being the game-sealing interception. The Buccaneers, with the ball in their hands and a chance to drive down the field and tie this game up, unfortunately come up short. And, this kind of gives you shades of that final pass from Jameis Winston to close out that 2019 season.
I don't know, a little different.
Tie game in overtime, and we get a pick six. Wasn't quite a pick six, but the Bucs had the ball with a chance to tie the game. And Baker Mayfield had an opportunity. A legacy drive is what many were calling it. And that's what we got. And now I know I just said about Mike Evans, the NFL is a "what have you done for me recently" league. And the Bucs now have to go into the offseason debating on whether to give this guy a contract when on the biggest stage that they have played on, with the biggest opportunity to put the team on his back and prove that he is your franchise quarterback, you get an interception. Not a great look. Not a great look or a great feeling to go into the offseason with when you are negotiating a contract with this quarterback. Now, I will say personally, it is one hell of a way to finish the season. And I think a lot of the Baker haters have a lot of ammunition ready to go, given what we just watched. But in my personal opinion, I still think the Bucs are going to want Baker back. And I know that they were playing with a chance to tie the football game, but if you make your field goal and you don't have a couple of other costly mistakes early in that game, you're not even in that position to begin with. So for me personally, I still think Baker ends up your starting quarterback week 1 in 2024 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But what do you think after this performance, after this 3-4 game stretch here from Baker Mayfield? What do you think this has got to do for the contract negotiations moving forward?
I mean, I don't think it changes anything. I really don't. To me, it would have had to have been bad for the Buccaneers to not consider bringing him back. Like, I mean, you say you still think the Bucs are going to want him back. Like, look, I can tell you they do. And he will be back. Like, there's some people that think, oh, he won't be. Like, he will be. Again, like, I don't know. Maybe, like, at the same time, like, he threw that interception, sure, but, like, me personally, like, I didn't expect them to go 90 yards and score a touchdown, then also get a 2-point conversion. So, like, the interception, while it was bad, like, I'm not gonna kill him for it. And the first one, I'm not gonna put on him. Because yes, the ball was high, but at the same time, like, Mike Evans to me needs to come down with that catch. But I thought he played well, and there were spurts where he's held onto the ball, but that's Baker or whatever. But I thought, he hung in there a lot of the time. The one ball to Otton where he escaped pressure, then zipped it. That was an incredible throw. I thought he made a lot of good throws, and like I said, it wasn't quite enough. The two costly mistakes there, and a couple this is what we talked about. The offensive line sometimes didn't give him a chance. Like, these blitzes were getting there so quick. I mean, you have Aiden Hutchinson just completely unblocked. Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. You got to know where that guy is at all times. So I don't think it was all on Baker. I thought he played well for the most part. And I mean, almost put up 400 yards passing. I know they were passing the ball a lot because they were down, especially, in the final 6-7 minutes there. But I do think he played overall pretty well. And I don't really think it changes the contract negotiations one way or another. I think if he had won, I think it would change things. And I think if they had imploded and he just played horrible, maybe that would change things. But to me, like, this type of performance, it's not really one that's going to change much in terms of, money or value that he's going to get.
I agree. I want to talk about the defense really quickly, and then we're going to get to these phone calls. I appreciate everyone who is still on hold. Really, in the second half is what I want to focus on the most with this Buccaneers defense, and I figure it's just because they were gassed. They could not get off of the field. But for far too long in this game, this defense just gave you nothing. I felt like in the third and the fourth quarter, you needed one stop one stop, and you didn't get it. Before the Lions took over on offense, the final drive of the game, their last 3 drives, last 3 possessions ended in touchdown, touchdown, touchdown to keep them in the game. The Bucs offense had to keep answering, and that's another reason why I don't think this game changes much for Baker Mayfield, because the pressure was on him in the offense all night, and they were able to keep pace.
It could have gotten, 31-17, it could have gotten pretty ugly there, but
Yeah.
they responded with a nice drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the lack of pass rush today, the lack of success on the blitz, the amount of time that Jared Goff had, the amount of times that they played zone defense and left a guy open with nobody within 10 yards of him, it was all just kind of pathetic there in the second half. And it was incredibly unfortunate because you had a couple of big plays. Kalijah Kancey with a big-time sack there at the end of the second quarter. It pushed the Lions out of potential field goal range on a 3rd and 1. Bucs got the ball back, and they marched down the field 92 yards to end the first half, and it sets up a scoring drive. Like, that's a huge play. But aside from that, the dropped interception from Jamel Dean, I really cannot think of many other plays today that this defense made to try and keep you in the game. And it's unfortunate that, the mistakes were early for the Buccaneers offense, and you did have to overcome that. But at the end of it, this is a defense that continuously could not get off of the field. They were gassed in the 3rd and 4th quarter because every time there was a 3rd and 15, hey, no effing problem. Jared Goff is going to have 6 seconds there to just pick someone and toss it. I mean, Ryan Neal today got absolutely punked by the slowest tight end on Detroit's roster. I thought that was embarrassing. There were a couple of instances today where they just could not tackle worth a damn, and Jahmyr Gibbs would take a 3-yard carry and turn it into a 7, 8, or 9-yard carry. And that paid dividends at the end of the game. But for an offense that was able to keep pace, this defense gave them nothing down the stretch. And that's incredibly disappointing as well.
Yeah, and it's just like I explained earlier. Like, I thought, when the defense would get a stop, the offense would stall out. When the defense wouldn't get a stop, the offense would have to respond with a touchdown, and they did. The one play that I would say is an impact play is probably the Kalijah Kancey sack of Jared Goff there. I think that set up that drive right before half.
Yeah, it did.
That's a pretty big play there. But yeah, I don't agree with playing zone as much. And then, Jamel Dean dropped the interception. Jamel Dean had a great day, and then unfortunately gets hurt. And, Zion McCollum comes in. And Zion McCollum, who played well last week, has played well throughout the season, was really having a tough time. He was targeted by the Lions, and felt like that was a real shift in momentum when Jamel Dean went out. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they need secondary. And
no, they need a number 1 pass rusher.
Yeah. To me, that's the story of this game. Like, Jared Goff had too much time, and we said, they needed to get pressure on Goff, and they needed to get pressure with 4. And at times they did that. It just wasn't consistent enough, and they didn't blitz obviously nearly as much as they did last week against Philly, and that's good. That's a good game plan to me. At the same time, though, I think it proves, Detroit's offensive line is really good, but at the same time, it's just they don't have the horses right now on these pass rushers, and until they get that, they're not going to be able to consistently rush the passer with 4. So instead, you're going to have to blitz, and you're going to be leaving your corners out on an island like that.
Yeah, the Bucs have a little bit of extra cap space here in the offseason, but if you want to retain a team that has Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Mike Evans at wide receiver, Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, Antoine Winfield Jr. at safety, and potentially Levante David back at linebacker, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And I think the most moving around we're going to see among a position group is going to be along that defensive line. Important decisions have to be made. Guys like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, guys like Shaq Barrett. I know they're still technically under contract, but there's going to be some names moving around that you may not expect.
There's going to be some changes to this team. It's not going to be the same team next year. You would think, maybe, they made the playoffs. You want to keep this team together. No. There's going to be some new faces on this roster next year.
Let's get into these phone calls now that we have pretty much recapped the game on both sides of the ball. We got a lot of people on hold, and I want to say first and foremost, we appreciate your patience. Caller, you're on the Can of Fire podcast. What's your name?
Hey, it's Corey from Nashville.
What's up, Corey?
Hey, guys. Hey, man. Listen, when you're rooting for a team in professional sports, when they get to postseason play, win, lose, or draw, you want your team to look competent. and you want your team to look like they belong, and you want your team to represent your passion for them. I thought we did that today. We went in a very hostile environment. And if we're being honest, we watched that game, right, guys? If we're being honest, we were better than the Lions for about three and some quarters. And they started driving the ball late, but early in that game, we had a chance to seize that game, much like Green Bay. And you see the 9-8 teams, they get on the road against the higher seeds. And you've seen now 2 games where that lower seed didn't take advantage of their opportunities. And that's what that was. We tipped the ball, get intercepted. Jared Goff gives Jamel Dean a pick 6 because I actually thought he would have got tackled in the end zone, but then on the replay I saw like he had Green in front of him, like and he can get out in the open field. That's a pick 6. We missed a field goal. He hasn't missed a field goal all year. Misses a field goal. With all those things, we go into the halftime tied up, and our team, we had opportunity. We take a sack on 3rd and 4, leaving their best pass rusher unblocked. Just things happen. But man, I'm incredibly proud of this team. This team had Caleb Williams in a Bucs jersey at the start of this season. 2, 3 wins. Oh, this team's no good. You watch that team today. Did we look like a team that was not good today?
They look like
did we look like that?
They look like a team that had a chance until the very end, and that's the last thing you can ask for in the postseason.
That's it. That's all you can ask for, regardless of what calls we agree with or don't agree with. Listen, Todd Bowles can't catch that ball that was intercepted. Todd Bowles can't catch that interception for Dean. Todd Bowles can't kick that field goal. Okay? Granted, there were some things that we could have done better schematically in that, especially their back-to-back touchdown drives. I thought there were some things we could have did differently. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan. The defense played lights out, and that's a very tough offense to hold to 10 points for a half and then give up one. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough offense. Like, you need turnovers or you need your offense to put pressure on their offense. Unfortunately, I thought today we didn't play complementary football from that perspective. Like, our offense will get a drive and then we'll either get a sack or we'll have to punt it. Things like that. If we would have went down and got some points when that game was 10-10, we come out in the half, I think we put a little bit more pressure on Jared Goff, but he never really felt pressure physically or mentally, in my opinion. We couldn't touch him. But like you said, you want to watch your team play 4 quarters of football or back, whatever your sport is, and you want to sit back at the end of that and be like, am I proud of my team? Did they show the passion that I have for them? And if your answer is yes, hold your heads high, Buccaneers fans. Jason Light hit on back-to-back drives, not to mention undrafted rookies like Christian Henry making big plays today. I'm excited for this offseason. And for those people that are talking about how out, and I get it, I don't want to give a quarterback $40 million either. I get it. Hopefully we can get some type of team deal or whatever we might have to do to keep Baker. But he went toe-to-toe with a really hot offense in their house. Unfortunately, all we're going to remember is his last throw. Mm-hmm. But he made a lot of big throws this game. Just going down 17-10, tying that game up, going down the field when we're down 14, getting it. Canales is going to be better next year. I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. It's going to be a lot of, more pressing candidates for some job openings that we thought were going to be open that won't, like Dallas and Philly. They won't be open, right? So it's only so many jobs out there. I think Ben Johnson, I honestly think he's going to get the Carolina job. But if somebody's going to go to the Chargers. So we'll have another year with Canales and Todd Bowles in this division. I'm very excited about the future. I'm sorry, I'm about to go. I know I'm ranting, but it's the last podcast, I guess. Last chance I get to call it. But this organization has shown they can draft and they can sign free agents, right? Shaq Barrett was a great signing when we got him. We had 20 sacks his first year, 19 and a half, something crazy like that. Unfortunately, let's be honest, tore his Achilles last year, and he had a tragedy in his family. There are things that we wanted him to do this year coming off a torn Achilles that we didn't even ask Kevin Durant or Kobe Bryant to do when they came off their torn Achilles. All that torque, like give him a year Give him this year. I think we'll restructure, and let's see if he can get back. He's only he's 30. I think he's going to be 30 next year. And we'll see how that goes and group him with these pass rushers. I think we're going to take a pass rusher in the first round. But this organization has shown me they can build a team through the draft and free agency, and I'm very excited about the future of my team. I don't care what anybody says. I'm upset we lost. Sometimes it's not your year, right? But we got a playoff win. We got another division title. Teams are going to be gunning for us. I'm really excited about the direction of this team. Thanks, guys. That's my call.
Absolutely. Thank you, Corey. It's an exciting time to be a Bucs fan and see where this team is ultimately going to end up. And we also spoke on the lack of pass rush today, but 2 sacks. One of them from Levante David, the team captain. The other one from first-round pick Kalijah Kancey, who showed up when this team needed it. And we talked about the effect that sack had, setting up a 2-minute drive where the Bucs can go down the field in 92 yards in, a minute 12, I think, to basically get a Cade Otton touchdown there before halftime, tie it up 10-10, and keep the momentum in their favor headed into the second half. Great call, Corey. We appreciate you. Let's get to some more calls. We got a lot of people on hold, and we do appreciate your patience. Caller, you're on the Cannon Fire podcast. What's your name?
We talked about the effect.
What's up, guys? It's Richard from the West Coast.
What's up, Richard?
Man, so you know what? Great season. Awesome season. Very up and down. Painful game. You know, got a little frustrating to watch at times. It's just that you look at this Lions team, dude. You have to match them for point, right? Their offensive line is one of the best in the league. And I know Todd Bowles is a quote unquote mastermind in dialing up blitzes and stuff, but their O-line was really able to hold it at bay. And I've been clamoring about this whole week to some of my friends here on the West Side, is that Jared Goff against the Bucs, or against Todd Bowles,
he kills them. Yeah, he can't.
He does.
Yeah,
he's so good at staying patient, getting the ball out quick, and finding the open guy when the blitzes are coming. I mean, think about this. The last time he beat Todd Bowles' defense was in 2019 against LA, here in LA, and he still put up 30-something points. The Bucs put up 55 that day. You know what I mean? That's the kind of effort it's going to take to beat Jared Goff, unfortunately. And I don't think he's a great quarterback, but for some reason, he's great when he plays against Todd Bowles. So when it comes to play for play, point for point, that's what you have to do. And just unfortunately, the defense just weird out, man. They blitzed, the holes were there, and he got us in the middle every time.
Yeah, you are right. Jared Goff's 4 games against Todd Bowles' defense. Okay, so this is 2 of these games were when Bruce Arians was the head coach, but Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator. But against Todd Bowles' defense, Jared Goff in the first game, 45 of 68, 517 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That was that crazy game that, like you said, the Buccaneers won. The next game, 39 of 51, 376 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then this year, 30 of 44, 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then today, Jared Goff was 30 of 43, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So yeah, he's almost gone. Today actually broke the streak of 300 yards, of 300 plus yards against the Todd Bowles defense. 517 yards the first time. Yeah, he just absolutely, Todd Bowles cannot seem to figure out how to beat Jared Goff.
Hey, and don't forget, this is a Bucs team. This is a Bucs team with a first place schedule, so they're going to get their rematch next year with good old Detroit.
Yeah, man, it'll be tough. It's going to be tough. You really have to ask Todd Bowles, what can he really do to shake up Jared Goff, to really get in his head, to force him into mistakes? And that's
there's a decent chance. There's a decent chance the Buccaneers could run into this Lions team again next postseason. Who knows? I mean, the Lions aren't going nowhere. I mean, they're not. They're going to be one of the best teams in NFL, I think, for a good bit here. I mean, they're I think their lead tackler today was Brian Branch. Their leading receiver was Sam Laporta, and their leading rusher was Jahmyr Gibbs. All three rookies. So Lions have been quite impressive. The Bucs rookie class was really good. The Lions rookie class was probably the best in the NFL. So yeah, the Lions certainly aren't going anywhere. So if Todd Bowles wants to advance anymore, yeah, he's gonna have to figure out Jared Goff, because good chance he can be playing him in the postseason at some point here.
Richard, final thoughts before we let you go, my friend.
Hey, it's always tough going after Corey, I swear to God. But, he brought up a good point that I wanted to say, too. We really have to be proud of this team, dude. We really do. We went further than anyone ever expected. I know most of us fans were expecting to win the division. That was expected, but probably not get this far. We had a chance. We had chances today to beat this Lions team,
Yep.
and unfortunately, we just couldn't keep up. And kudos to the Lions, man. It sounds very familiar with a team that hasn't had any success, yet alone going into the postseason for the first time in a long time, getting success in the postseason. Other people telling them that they don't have the experience going into the postseason. Sounds oddly familiar from a couple years ago, wouldn't you say? So, congratulations to the Lions. They earned it. They did a good job putting themselves in the position that they're at. But next season is going to be very interesting. We're going to see if Baker Mayfield's going to re-sign. I think it's all going to be based on if Canales is going to stay, which I think he should, but you never know. Some other organization will look at what David Canales did here, took a player like Baker Mayfield, who's been an up and down quarterback throughout his career and had the best season of his career here under this first-time play caller. That's something to be said, and I think that gives a lot of merit and credit to what Dave Canales has done here. So let's see what happens. For Todd Bowles, I don't think he's going to get fired. I don't think he deserves to get fired, but it's just unfortunate. I just wish he would coach or be a head coach like he was play calling. Just be a little bit more aggressive sometimes. I think he could have took advantage of some aggressive, letting the team be a little bit more aggressive, such as going for it on fourth down earlier in the game, things like that. But that's all I have to say, guys. I don't want to take too much of your time. Can't wait for your off-season content. Thank you guys both for allowing us to do this again, day after day or game after game. And hey, Evan, I just want to say it's been really cool to witness you grow in this media platform that you have. You're young when you were starting Kind of Fire podcast, and now you're working for Bucs Nation. Congratulations on that, man. I really respect that hustle that you bring in. Yeah, man. So.
Thanks a lot, Richard.
guys,
I really appreciate that.
No problem, man. Well deserved. So I'll keep following you guys in the off season. Until next season, man. Go Bucs.
Until next season. Great call, Richard. Great talking to you this season, buddy. And we love you representing out there on the West Coast. Man, we have got some packed phone lines. We are going to try and get through the rest.
We're gonna get to them all. We're gonna get to them all.
We are. We appreciate you guys' patience. You're on the Can of Fire podcast. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Matt. Freezing my ass off from Rhode Island. Thank you guys for taking my call. So yeah, pretty happy with how they turned out. I want to start off with that disclaimer. I know it's a great team they played, really talented roster, awesome coaching. But that being said, looking at the second half, that last quarter especially, I think that really put a dent in the arguments for keeping Bowles as a coach. And obviously that last play, I really do think that hurt Mayfield's chances of coming back. So, especially with Bowles, it looked like in that second half, they just kept making the same mistakes. Todd Bowles' defense, you kind of expect better from them. You expect some adjustments, but they kept giving up those 10-yard passes, like right down the middle.
Yeah.
So, aside from the defense too, which they kept making those same mistakes the entire second half, to start off that third quarter, coming out of the half, that critical drive where we could have taken the lead by 7 points, giving up those blitzes, nobody being there to block for Mayfield and just letting him get destroyed. I would put a little bit of that on Bowles. Maybe it could be on Mayfield too. That's what the commentators seem to be saying. But, I definitely think that also hurt. Bowles was, didn't look good for him, I don't think. And just aside from that, the entire game, the lack of discipline, the penalties, they just kept stacking up. So I like Bowles. I think it'd be cool if he came back, but I do think that doesn't make me feel good about us making a deep run for the Super Bowl. And I hate to say it, that should have been what we were going for Bowles' first year with Brady, and we couldn't even get past the first round. So I think, with that being said, I think with Evans, Godwin, Levante, all these guys getting so old, I think our window is short. I don't know if Bowles is the guy to get us there next year. His defense kept making those mistakes, and the same thing with Mayfield. We know he played fantastic at times, but that pick, what's to stop him from doing that if we were to get even deeper in the playoffs next year? But, that being said, just the fact that we're playing in the divisional round, I think is awesome. None of us, myself included, I was hoping we'd make the playoffs, but never would have thought we'd win a game in the wild card round and be this competitive against this good team. So overall, I'm really happy with how the season went. But that being said, we had kind of low expectations coming in for a reason. And, I think we could really improve those expectations I think we do need some big, big changes that, coaching, quarterback, and definitely the secondary, I think. Secondary, and like you mentioned too, just the pass rush, we could definitely use, better pass rush. I like Vita Vea, but I think obviously he's not enough. So thank you guys again for taking my call. I appreciate it. And thanks. Go Bucs.
Appreciate you, Matt. Go Bucs.
Really quick, one thing about expectations before we get to this next one is honestly, okay, I think most Bucs media or Bucs fans, anyone who's following the team close, they didn't expect this team to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, right? Like they didn't think a lot of things would have had to gone wrong, right? Was it possible? Sure. Could have Baker Mayfield have flamed out? Could Tristan Wirfs transition to left tackle not gone well? Sure. Could the defense sort of implode, I guess? Sure. Definitely could have happened, but it wasn't probably likely. So I do think though, expectations, I do think the Bucs, exceeded expectations for even fans of the team or media of the team. I don't think there was many people back in August thinking this team was gonna maybe win the South, maybe, but I didn't think there was many people that were thinking this team was gonna win a playoff game. I don't think there was many. To me, if you told me oh yeah, back in August, I said my expectations were a playoff game, I'd say you're probably lying.
Yeah, one win away from the NFC Championship game and a dominant performance in the wild card round. I know it was a beat-up Eagles team, but they were still one of the better teams in the NFC. The first team all year to clinch. And, they did what they did. Now, great call by Matt, and all of those things have to be considered. We talk a lot about the highs this season and how, yes, this Bucs team did exceed expectations, and I ultimately believe Bowles is going to be back. But if you're the Bucs, if you're ownership and Jason Light, whoever makes the final decision, you have to consider and have to take into account the final two quarters of that game because it attributed, I don't want to say it attributed greatly to the loss because, again, we talk about the first half mistakes are really what ended up biting you the most, but you have to look at it being what it is. The Lions made adjustments at halftime. Todd Bowles didn't have an answer for it. Baker Mayfield was able to do what he needed to do, but on the final drive of the game, with a chance to keep the team in the game, he threw an interception. It has to be taken into account. Again, I ultimately do not think things change. I think the Bucs made up their mind after last week's win. I think Baker is back. I think Bowles is back. And some of these other free agents are back. But definitely something they have to take into account. Let's get to some more calls here. We have got, we still got 4 more people on hold. We appreciate your patience here on the Cane and Fire podcast. What's your name?
Nick.
Nick, what's going on, man?
Hey, how are you guys? Appreciate y'all. Hey, just a quick observation. When the game, love Todd Bowles, great defensive mind. But what was kind of off-putting at the beginning of the game, and they were getting jacked up, and don't get me wrong, I'm a KJ Britt fan, but with all the veterans from the Super Bowl, I tell you the truth, we got burned over the middle. Yeah, KJ Britt hits the gaps well, but he's no Devin White.
Yeah.
We got killed over the middle. And, it just pains me that, they had a rocky, I don't know if it was injury. We really, I miss D White, and I think a lot of fans did, but when he led, and I understand there's a changing of the guard and you're pumping up Britt, but it didn't feel right that they chose him to pump up our there were so many Super Bowl players on that team, and I just thought it would have been I understand it, but man, I miss D White today. Hey, proud of our Bucs, proud of our, just really, really proud of them. And I was just wondering if anybody else had that observation, but I love me some D White. I like Britt, but I missed them today, bro. Really missed them. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for the call, Nick.
Appreciate you. Did he hang up? Oh, no, he's still there.
Thank you.
All right. Big Devin White fan.
I'll tell you what, Nick, sorry, but buddy, you're going to be disappointed because as we've repeatedly said on this podcast, Devin White will not be back in 2024.
Yeah, Devin White already making a great impression with fans. He is quick with the Twitter fingers, calling out all the dumbass fans that he never responds to with Patrick Queen. So he's doing some flirting with whatever team signs him next. I definitely don't think he's going to be back, but I can definitely see the argument as to where KJ Britt is not quite as lethal rushing the passer as a guy like Devin White may have been. But I also think that there was a big reason why Devin White was not on the field for most of that first half, just wasn't included in a lot of those base packages on defense. And, the writing on the wall, but we've known about this since the week of the Green Bay game. Devin White probably his final game in a Bucs uniform today.
Yeah. I do think I just think it's clear. Like, they went into that game and KJ Britt played a good bit. I'll say one thing. KJ Britt had a heck of a first half. Fell off a little bit in the second half. Look, there's only so many people that are going to cover Jahmyr Gibbs. Really, especially no linebackers. I don't care if you're Levante David or Devin White, whatever. No linebackers going to be covering Jahmyr Gibbs. So when that's the assignment, that's a tough assignment. But I thought Britt played well. And the thing is, and the important thing that I think Britt showed was that while he's not perfect, he's definitely not, he can be a starting caliber middle linebacker for you. And I think, especially if Levante David's back, which I think he's going to come back, I do think it's either retirement or Tampa Bay. I think there's a real chance he hangs it up. I do. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk that he's back, but if I had to guess, I would say he's back. But I think it's important that Britt showed he has a starting caliber middle linebacker. That way, the Buccaneers don't have to add another huge need to their list, right? Because getting a pass rusher, getting another safety, possibly another corner, maybe another offensive lineman, that's going to be tough enough, right? What if things go south with Baker Mayfield and you need a quarterback? What if things go south with Mike Evans and you need a wide receiver? What if Levante David does retire? Then you need 2 middle linebackers? To me, it would just be too much of a long list. And I think it was important that Britt showed that while he's not perfect, he can be a starting caliber middle linebacker in this league.
I think something that gave me that inkling about Levante David as well was the fact that Gerald McCoy showed up in the wild card round, but he didn't just show up to root on the Bucs. He showed up wearing a Levante David jersey. And if I'm not mistaken, he had a couple of people who joined him also wearing Levante David jerseys. There was a good group of people walking around the Bucs sideline specifically supporting Levante David. He's never been a guy who's been too vocal about what his intentions are. I think the only time he's ever come out and actually addressed anything that has been said about him in the media regarding re-signing was after the Super Bowl, where he had to come out and basically remind everyone, like, hey, settle down. I've got some time to make this decision. And the Bucs ultimately re-sign him. But I also get the feeling that if Levante David does not re-sign with the Bucs, he could decide to hang him up. I do get that inkling based off of some of the things that he said before that wild card round game as well, wanting to leave everything out there. $2 super chat from our buddy Chris Higgins. Sad cannon noises, hashtag consolation Wendy's.
Yeah, consolation Wendy's. It'll be, I mean, whenever you get Wendy's, it's a good day. I'm not going to be sad eating the Wendy's, but you're just going to be eating the Wendy's with a little less enthusiasm, maybe. Maybe you get the Wendy's to cheer them up. So, Chris, thank you for cheering both of us up by treating us to some Wendy's.
I don't have any sad cannon noises for you, but there you go.
There you go. I mean, super chat, we're going to celebrate the super chat, but yeah, we appreciate it. Your third super chat. I like how YouTube does that. Let's celebrate their third super chat on a live stream. I like how YouTube does that little special thing. So, yeah, let's get back to the callers. As Buck Wild points out, we got 5 on hold. So, what's up, caller?
Let's do it. What's your name?
Hello?
Hello, who's this?
Here.
Oh, hey, guys. Dude, this is Buck Wild, man, from Hawaii.
Oh, there you are. What's up, man?
Yo, man, I'd just like to say, man, we went all out this season, regardless of what was going on. Man, I'm so proud with our team, regardless of the fact what people were saying about Coach Todd Bowles. I hung in there, man, no matter what. If we got rid of Todd Bowles during the regular season, who was there for us to pick up? Nobody. You know, that's just me. But whatever happens, we made it all the way to the divisional playoffs with our first quarterback for the season, Baker. You know, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next season. And on top of that, we just got our OC too, first season. So there's a lot of up and up with our team right now. I'm stoked on it, you know. But just wanted to chime in and give you guys a shout out, and also to the fans in our chat room. I got receipts, so I know who you all are that hated Baker. I got you guys. But regardless, you know, season's over. All we can do right now, just hope for the best and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think the Bucs are in a great position right now to not only keep things consistent along this coaching staff, but keep it consistent with the quarterback. And this is the first season in a very long time where, you know, the Bucs make a playoff run, come up short, and we can go into the next season expecting improvement with this coaching staff. Like it's the first time where you go into the offseason expecting improvement, and it doesn't feel uncertain. It doesn't feel unrealistic or out of line to expect this team to improve off of what they've shown us. And what they've shown us this year, I mean, has been pretty damn fun to watch because nobody expected them to get this far, for sure.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. And like I say, man, it's no matter how positive no matter how down our team is during the games, I'm always pushing it, trying to stay positive, trying to keep our chat going, you know. But it is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinions. But for me, dude, it's right now everything is riding high for Bucs. I just can't wait till next season, man. And hopefully, hey, for all the chat, before you guys get out, smash that like button. Let's get this our Cannon Fire podcast numbers up. You know, let's do it.
Let's go.
Go Bucs.
Let's go. I love it. We appreciate you riding with us all season. Go Bucs, man. Great talking to you from the great state of Hawaii. Buck Wild, we'll talk to you soon.
Remember, he's got the receipts.
He does have the receipts.
He's got the receipts.
He does have the
folks.
receipts. Check your sheets. Check your sheets.
Check your sheets. Oh, my God. I forgot. I almost forgot about that quote. What a quote.
Check your sheets. Let's get to the rest of these calls. We appreciate your patience. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast. What's your name?
All right, man. Good afternoon. My name is Andre all day. I've been a diehard Bucs fan since day one. You know, when they started 0-14, I went to they won the first Super Bowl and won the second Super Bowl a few years ago. This year, you know, you compare this year to the other Buccaneers seasons. This has been a good year. I mean, we had the ups and downs. We started strong. We had that slump in the middle of the season, and then we finished strong in the end, you know. And, again, nobody expected us to win 5 games, 4 games, 3 games, even 2 games. But we made it this far, and we surprised everybody. Even a lot of Bucs fans were surprised about it as well. So hats off to the Buccaneers this season for what they've done. They overachieved, no doubt about it, and they exceeded expectations. But for them going 9-8, for a Buccaneers fan to see this happening, for them going to the playoffs and go this far into the playoffs was an outstanding season for the Buccaneers. Now, for the game that just ended against the Detroit Lions, yes, it was disappointing. And I noticed that in the game that the Bucs actually outplayed the Lions. I know the Lions had more big plays, but you look at the statistics, the Bucs had more yardage than the Lions. And Baker Mayfield outdid the other guy, Jared Goff. I mean, Baker Mayfield had like 350 yards passing, and to Jared Goff's 200 some yards passing. But the thing about it is, with the mistakes, the Bucs made more mistakes than the Lions. I mean, it was like a competitive game for each team. It was a great game all the way to the finish, but the Bucs just made a little bit more mistakes than the Lions, in which they could not overcome. Like that one in which Jamel Dean should have caught that interception in that end zone. I think if he would have caught that pass, he would have gone coast to coast with a pick six all the way through, and that would have changed the tide of the game all the way. I mean, that's how close this game was. But, with that, with the other miscues, with the interceptions and such, also with poor coverage in the secondary and such, that outdid us right there. But, you have to tip your hats off to, let's say, number one, Todd Bowles. I know there was a lot of hate about Todd Bowles, about firing Todd Bowles, everything else. I mean, he had the same thing happen to him last year. But here it is. This is his second year as his head coach. This is the second year he's won the NFC South Championship. And they're the division champions once again. I know it's been a weak division and such. And you know what? I think the division can be weak next year. I think the Saints going to go through the ups and downs, just like the Falcons going through the ups and downs. And then the Panthers is going to be cellar dwellers.
It's going to be just down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the Bucs still have a good opportunity to win it next year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I figure, most likely run it back. You know what I mean? I understand that, Levante David might retire. Look at William Golson. William Golson's another veteran who's been on the Bucs about the same amount of years as Levante David.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something could change with him. He might retire, might go to another team. Who knows? But, I think there should be just little changes on each side of the ball on the offense and defense. As far as Baker Mayfield, signed a guy. I mean, he deserves, his props, give him his flowers, 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 4,000 yards. And then, he really baked this in the playoffs. 300 yards passed in the last game, 300 yards passing in this game, And the thing about it, he deserves to have, I would not say a long-term contract with him. Give him like a 3-year contract or something like that, But he deserves a contract nevertheless, and deserves to be a starting quarterback nation for the Buccaneers. Sign Michael Evans. I mean, that guy's a legend. He's a living legend. He's going to be first ballot Hall of Fame. He's still putting up numbers. He still is a high caliber type of wide receiver. Sign him and such like that. And the thing about it is with Todd Bowles, let's say, I know, he's been under the hot seat ever since last year. Give him at least another year. And let's say if he underachieved next year, then, give him the axe and such. But, seeing this with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and for me being a diehard Bucs fan from day one, all the way back from 1976 to now, I mean, you got to give this team credit. It was a gritty team. They didn't give up, even though they was at 4-7 at one point. They still was positive. They still was able to grind it out. And they went ahead and took advantage of the division, took advantage of the final 5 or 6 games of the season, and won 5 out of 6 to not only get into playoffs, but clinch the division, and then blew the brakes off the Philadelphia Eagles. Some people thought the Eagles were going to beat the Bucs and such, but the Bucs took care of them, and then had a competitive game against the Lions. I mean, everybody see the Lions and saying, oh, they're the best team to beat in the NFC and such, because I'm thinking with the Lions, they have a good chance of being the 49ers next week. I saw the 49ers game last night. They were shaking against the Packers. The Packers not a really good team. And we know about the Dallas Cowboys, too much hype with them, with Jerry Jones in that situation right there. Jerry Jones put a lot of pressure on that team and that organization to go to the Super Bowl every year, and every year they lose. So I'm not surprised about that. But, the Green Bay Packers are up and down. And then with the 49ers kind of just squeaking out the victory versus the Packers, the Lions have a real good chance of going over to Santa Clara and beating the 49ers and going to the Super Bowl for the first time in their history, in their organization. So hats off to the Lions and what they've done and what they continue to do. But with the Buccaneers, it's been a good season, and I want to see them run it back next year, man. So go Bucs, and God bless.
Go Bucs.
Thank you.
Great call. Man, I don't even think we have to do a season review show. I think we covered all of our bases.
That was good. That was good.
We covered all of our bases on that call.
And he covered the rest of the NFL playoffs.
I'm telling you, yeah, he forecasted
the
other teams that are left. Going to be a good weekend of championship matchups next weekend. All right, let's get to our final caller, a guy who's been on hold for far too long. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this may be our guy, Mikey Kelly. Am I correct?
Oh, shit. My bad. Yeah, it is MK. What's up, man?
I could tell by how they answered the phone. I was like, yeah, you're correct.
Making a pretty on-brand entrance. What's going on, my man? How you doing? We appreciate your patience and staying on hold for so long.
Oh, you're good. Right when you answered, I walked up and I disconnected my phone to my charger, so that's why I reacted like that. How are you guys? I'm in Arizona with my grandma right now. It's beautiful weather right now, kind of.
Yeah.
It's much better than in Pottstown, so.
Yeah, at least it's, you said you're out, what, West Coast, Arizona? So what, 4:30 over there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 5:35 right now. It's 5:33 right now. We're about 2 hours behind of Tampa, I believe, because the game started here at 1 p.m.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep.
So how do you feel about this game? How do you feel about this season and the way the Bucs are set up moving forward?
Well, the season, if we backtrack back in August, to be honest, I don't think we could have signed anyone better, free agent wise, quarterback wise, with the money we had in Baker. So I mean, he was my guy from the start. But the fact that everyone thought we were going to win 4 games and to have a top 3 draft pick is outrageous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. I think we talked about though. I would say a lot of those people were either the national media or fans that weren't a fan of the Buccaneers. I would say that most Bucs fans at Bucs media had them in the 7 to 9 range. I would say, right? Maybe even 6 to 9 range. I would say 6 on the low. Probably. I didn't see really anybody predict 10 wins. I don't think when they didn't get to 10 wins, So but also I didn't see anybody, I think, predict that they were going to win a playoff game. Just like Rhett said a few minutes ago, they were 1 win away from being in an NFC Championship game. I mean, 1 win away from being 2 wins away from the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected that.
You had to say 6 wins so you could lump yourself in there.
I was going to say, besides my crazy predictions every week. So what was it? The first thing I wanted to bring up to you guys was that 4th and 1, the first half, where we decided to punt it instead of at least go for it.
Yeah.
Because right then and there, my head was about to freak out. But, I don't know. Right then and there, I thought Todd had no balls. But
and those, those are the inconsistencies that drive me insane, because I would have been able to let that go a little bit better had we not gone for 2 for no reason on the final touchdown scored to make it an 8-point game and make it an even more uphill battle for your offense. The Bucs had been conservative, and they proved a couple of different times where they could have risked it for a touchdown. They took the points. And in a situation where, you can make it as standard as possible for your team to go score a touchdown and play for overtime, I don't know why then is the point to go for 2, but those are the inconsistencies that I have definitely vocalized an issue with before. As far as Todd Bowles as head coach, he's got to decide how aggressive he wants to be, because you can't just change your mind like that. You're going to look like an idiot.
No, I agree. And so one thing I just came to my mind is the thing that I can't stand about Todd Bowles is the fact that he just doesn't use his timeouts before the half. There was 30 seconds, I believe, and he still had all 3 timeouts. Come on, dude. You got to be aggressive. The season's on the line, and yet you're sitting here just playing, softball. Like I just said, grow some balls. Show some, power. I get it. Our receivers have, some of our receivers, Mike Evans. I hate to say it. I was wearing my Mike Evans jersey today, too.
Yep.
But in the beginning of the game, just bricks for hands. It looks like he had like popcorn before the game with those Butterfingers.
Yeah, a couple of far too costly.
Go ahead.
Far too costly drops for Mike Evans in the postseason. Like I know that he had some drops early in the season. We look back to that Monday night game against Philly, had the drop in the end zone. Had a couple of big time drops over the course of the year, but a lot of them were backbreakers in the postseason. Like the one drop that he has early sets up the interception and gives the Lions some points there. And then he's got another drop touchdown last week against Philly. Like these are very consequential drops here, and they're hard to ignore in the postseason when you talk about self-inflicted mistakes coming back to haunt you later in the game.
Yeah, I know. And one thing, I mean, obviously, we lost by like 8 points there, something like that. But like we literally missed 5 points off the board of that missed field goal and the 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It would have been a completely different scenario if like we did get the ball. Like we don't know if they would have scored regardless if they got the ball back. That's easy 5 points right there. That should have. Well, I mean, I don't know. My dad was next to me. He thought that 2-point conversion was a crazy call. Like I kind of like Evan, what I heard him saying earlier. Like he understood. Like I understand why. I think it would have been like around 5 point difference. I believe. I could be wrong if we were to get that 2-point conversion.
And the analytics basically, it's basically like a percentage, right? It's basically a percentage of like numbers, basically, and analytics. And the analytics would tell you to go for it. The analytics would tell you to do the 2-point conversion. But again, like I said, I understood it. I just didn't necessarily, agree with it. But
the timing.
Yeah, right. To me, I don't like to chase points when I don't have to. But before we let you go, Mikey, I do want to say the Bucs, they need an interior pass rusher. I think Chris Baker's available. He might be.
Oh yeah, my guy Chris Baker, dude. You gotta send me that Addy, dude. I'll get you that custom jersey, dude.
For those who don't know, Mikey sends me DMs of just pictures of customized Chris Baker jerseys, and he was gonna order a creamsicle one. And biggest Chris Baker fan right here, Mikey Kelly.
I met him in person. I met him in person, dude.
There you go.
My dad, his company, he did a drive for like a Boys and Girls Club in Tampa a few years back. That one year we had Chris Baker, and the company of all NFL players on the Bucs he could have picked to do like a speech to these kids, he decided to pick Chris Baker. And immediately I went up to him, snagged a photo with him. 5 years later, it feels like I found that photo again. I sent it to Chris Baker on Instagram. A day later, I get a follow request from Chris Baker.
Nice.
That's
now,
awesome.
Isn't he driving trucks now? I saw he's like a semi-truck driver going over the road.
I have no idea, to be honest, but like since I do follow him, I know he sadly had like I think a heart attack or something like a year ago or something.
Yeah, he did.
Like something to where he had to do like rehab and shit. So like that, I pray to God it all worked out for the best.
Yeah, obviously
but no,
wish
I'll let
him
you guys
the best.
go though, but
all right, Mikey, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Mikey, it's been a good season. Go Bucs, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Man, Bucs legend Chris Baker. Huh? Fan favorite?
Swaggy. He was a fan favorite for literally. I've never seen a guy turn from like a fan base is gonna love this guy and like, oh, this guy's so great on Hard Knocks and stuff. Yeah. And then 3 months later, they just all hate his guts.
I think the nail in the coffin for him was when he was dancing around and laughing after committing that penalty in the red zone against Carolina.
I honestly, I've tried to basically forget the Cutter era.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
The only thing I like about the Cutter era is a friend of the show, Keith Tandy. So.
There you go. Yeah, the Tandy man. How about that?
And current Buccaneers assistant coach. So shout out Keith Tandy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for the 2023 Tampa Bay Buccaneers season. I want to say first and foremost, we appreciate everyone who has followed us for coverage this year. You have a lot of choices in Tampa Bay Buccaneers content here on YouTube or on the podcast feed. And if you chose us, we are incredibly thankful. We had a goal for ourselves to hit 5,000 subscribers by March. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know the Bucs are no longer playing, but by the way that number is moving, I'd like to think we could hit it before February. It would not have been possible without the support you guys have given us this season. Thank you to everybody who called in, and thank you to the moderators in the chat room holding it down, all the new subs, the old subs, the people who have been here for years, or really just a couple of minutes. We had a couple of Lions fans checking in the live chat because, you know how classy of winners they are. So we are glad that we could hear from everybody. But it has been a very fun season. And I just want to thank everyone as we close out our final post-game show of the 2023 Buccaneers season. Evan, your final thoughts here.
Yeah, echo exactly what Rhett just said. Thank you to everyone who has chatted, super chatted, called in. You watched the show for a second, watched the show, listened, and said, "Who is this guy from Philly? He doesn't know anything," and turned it off. We appreciate you all. Those who have criticized me for allegedly being an Eagles fan, even though I do not care about the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, we appreciate it all, and the show would be literally nothing without you. It would just be two guys sitting here talking to each other with nobody listening. Like, we can do that over the phone if we wanted to. So, yeah, we appreciate everything, and we're not going away. There will be a point where we might take a week or two break, but we will be back here shortly. That's not now. We will be back here shortly with our season review show, where we're going to look down. We normally do it in quarters, of the season. Like, we're not going to go through, bro. I'm not looking through week one and dissecting the win against the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I'm not doing that. But we'll just go back and look at, the different quarters of the season, how the Buccaneers progressed, and then what's moving forward. And then also, with our short video content, that allows us to do more off-season things. So I am going to be coming out probably maybe starting the end of this week, positional reviews. So if you guys remember when I was doing the work for James or Mr. Bucs Nation, I did position group previews before the season. I did every position. This is going to be positional review. So I'm going to review how the quarterbacks did, how the running backs did, how the wide receivers did, and so on. So Mikey's asking, how much content can we expect from you guys this offseason? Plenty. Especially, I would say even more because of those short videos. So while the actual podcasts themselves will take, we're not going to be doing 3 shows a week anymore. The actual podcasts themselves will die down a little bit. We're still going to have plenty of different and interesting content out there for you guys. So thank you all for the support. Can't wait to, get into the off season, because at the same time, it sucks the season's over, but the off season's also an exciting time as well.
Yeah, the Bucs content does not stop. We got Studs and Duds should be coming out this week, and some other topics that we can dive into as we prepare for the offseason in Tampa Bay. Oh, man. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. You got anything coming out this week to wrap up the season?
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody for the support there too. Even the kind words that Richard from the West Coast had. So always appreciative. Just full disclosure, this is sort of what I want to do for a career. So it means a lot when I have the support and people tell me without me even prompting it, they tell me hey, you're doing a really good job. So it means a lot for me. Yeah, obviously, and my X Factor was Baker Mayfield, by the way. I did put that out. So if you want to go back and read it, you can. That's up to you. I'm not going to stop you, but I will have an article out sometime this week. I don't know exactly when, but just going to be talking about the job that Jason Light did this past offseason and how he's sort of set up the Buccaneers how he set them up for success this year when nobody really thought it was realistic, and then also how he set them up for years to come. So just going to be giving an article, giving some praise to Jason Light.
Last but not least, you can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. A lot to talk about regarding the future of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and we will get to it in due time. But we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us this season. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, or go follow us on any podcast platform. You can listen as well. Should be a lot of content coming your way as we cover some of the top red and pewter headlines here in the Buccaneers offseason. But, Evan, I just want to say as a co-host, it has been one hell of a season, and I am grateful to have covered it with you. Looking forward to the next one as we move on to the next phase of our coverage here on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's quite, that's all I have to say about that.
Don't worry. Before you know it, it'll be a season prediction show.
I'm telling you, it will be here before you know it. But thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. We will talk to you soon about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish, for the final time in the 2023 season. Appreciate you listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.